Hello and welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Isabelle Racicot, and it's my pleasure to host this launch event for BDC's Small Business Week. So with me today is someone I've known for many years. Really love this woman, BDC's new president and CEO, Isabelle Hudon.
Bonjour, Isabelle.
Hello. And next to her, Pierre Cléroux, BDC's chief economist, a really important person to have. Hello, Pierre.
Hello.
Well, thank you very much, Isabelle. A pleasure to be with you and Pierre and the entrepreneur that we will meet soon. But I'm very excited to be here and to start this new chapter with BDC, Isabelle. Before we go any further, I would like to first acknowledge that the land we are gathered on today here in Montreal is the traditional territory of Kanawake. Many of you are joining virtually from all over the country. I would love if you join me right now by acknowledging the land you are on, even if it's just silently. I welcome you all and acknowledge the territories in which you reside too. Isabelle, to you, my dear.
Thank you. Well, for those of you watching, remember that we are celebrating you this week, Canadian business owners. So today and throughout this whole week, it's all about entrepreneurs. So we really hope that you'll enjoy what we have in store for you. So Isabelle, let's start by explaining what is BDC Small Business Week and why is it so important, particularly this year?
So this week is a special one and has been for over 40 years.
Amazing.
It was a small idea that started in BC, Isabelle, and that we kept on and on and on and transformed into a cross-country initiative, first to celebrate entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. I think that it is very important to recognize and to take the time to celebrate and recognize the value and the importance of both entrepreneurship, but also all our entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And specifically this year, Isabelle, well, I think that we owe ourselves just to stop, pause for a second, celebrate, but think about what we have been through, but also, especially, Isabelle, what's coming ahead. Because as much as it was painful, difficult, and challenging, I do think that we have huge opportunities to take and make ours in Canada, and make ours for entrepreneurs, and make ours, BDC, to be there and to stay relevant for Canadian entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and you talk about opportunities, and we will discuss that with Pierre as well. So as entrepreneurs, you know better than anyone that the past, 18, 20 months have been turbulent. We saw many hardships and suffering, but we also saw many people come together to innovate and help one another. It was beautiful. We have amazing stories that we've all heard about. For business owners, I know it's now, both a cliche and an understatement to say that the pandemic has created long-term disruption, but, that is the reality. So what do we do next? What are the next best steps? What have we learned? So this year's theme for BDC Small Business Week is No Accident. So we're looking at opportunities to build a better way forward. And I'm sure that you'll enjoy this next hour. You'll get an exclusive sneak peek of where the Canadian economy is headed from BDC's chief economist, Pierre, that I introduced a bit earlier. And later, we will be joined by two amazing entrepreneurs who are examples of innovation, sustainability, and diversity. Three things that are fundamentally important for our future. That is Tareq Hadhad, founder of Peace by Chocolate, and Lauren Rathmell, greenhouse director and founding member of Lufa Farm. So get ready for some thought-provoking, entrepreneur-driven, and honest conversations from today. And I'm sure that, we'll be more informed, more inspired, and more excited about the future in an hour from now. But let me start with you, Isabelle. You are now the first woman to be CEO, president of BDC, and that comes after, what most people would say an unconventional career. And for
A fun one,
a fun one. And for those who may not know everything that Isabelle has done in the past, let me just remind you this. At 34, Isabelle was the youngest president of the Montreal Chamber of Commerce. Then she was appointed as president and CEO of Sun Life Financial for Quebec. And more recently, she was Canada's ambassador to France and Monaco. So Isabelle, you've said, and there's many amazing quotes of you out there in the world. One of them is about change and about not being scared of change. So what brought you to BDC?
Well, first of all, you said it, Isabelle, I had the huge privilege to represent my country and represent Canada, both in France and Monaco as the ambassador. It was unique privilege, something that I've never listed on my to-do list. But I got the call 4 years ago, and of course I said yes and moved there and lived in Paris for 4 years. It was, I have memory of like very good memories, Isabelle, about representing Canada, especially because Canada resonates with everyone as like a positive brand and a country that they love to love. Honestly, I've met no one that looked at Canada other than one of the best places to be on Earth. So that was a feel-good moment and also moments of great pride. Coming towards the end of my mandate, I knew that I wanted to go back and come back to the business environment.
Yeah.
But I was still wondering how I could serve my country, especially during the pandemic, where I saw and when I saw in France so many leaders wanting to make sure that France would bounce back as a stronger country and a more performant country. And I thought, you know what? We have to do the same for our own country. So when came my way this opportunity to lead BDC, I thought it's a best duo, whereby I go back to somewhat the private sector, or at least the business environment, not at least, but the best environment is for me the business environment, and also still serving my country. So it's a unique privilege, leading a strong team and celebrating people that I have only admiration for, entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I'm just like you on that. So what are you bringing to the table with the experience that you've gotten now as an ambassador? Will it change the way you're going to lead?
Well, before I left for Paris, I was in the business sector, as I said, in the financial in a financial institution. I left, and then I learned about diplomacy, and diplomacy gave me a few additional skills, I would say, Isabelle. First of all, it helped me understand and see the world not only from the North American lens, but also through the European lens. And one is not better than the other one, but having both gives you I would say, like a more complete perspective on the world. And we will talk later with Tareq, for example, and we could talk about how immigration is perceived in Europe versus how it is perceived here in Canada. But what I'm coming back with is one specific additional skill. And I do think that I'm coming back as a better negotiator. In business, we negotiate on numbers and with numbers. And usually, and around the world, 2 + 2 = 4. Few exceptions in few countries with whom we usually don't negotiate. But then in diplomacy, you mainly negotiate on words. And then that takes way much more patience. I'm renowned to be highly impatient.
Exactly.
And
now
I do
she's
think
better.
and I do think that it's one of my strengths, being impatient. But still, I had to fine-tune my negotiation skills so that I could become as agile negotiating on ideas and words as negotiating on numbers. But I'm coming back also with only gratitude for the privilege I had to serve my country. And I'm proud to be back and very proud to now lead the BDC.
So let's talk about, this term that has been being used right now a lot, the rebuilding a sustainable and inclusive economy. What does that mean to you?
Well, we went through at least 2 years into the pandemic.
Right.
I think that we have to learn from the pandemic, and not only what was difficult, but key learnings and new way of doing things. And also, I do think that we have to realize that most of what was impossible has become possible.
I love that sentence.
And the crisis created an urgency to think outside of the box, an urgency to do things differently, an urgency to survive also. And when you are in survival mode, like many entrepreneurs, then you become way much more creative and you innovate and you try without the fear of not succeeding right at first that you try something new. So I do think that we have to adopt a very positive mindset about what we have learned and keep the focus on the good things that we have learned, not to forget the past, but to see onward and forward. So building better means let's try not to replicate what did not work. And let's try to understand what did not work and what we were just repeating because we knew...
We didn't know better.
We did not know better.
But we didn't challenge it.
But now we know better.
Yeah. And I find that the younger generation is very good at testing it and saying, you guys have been doing this for all these years, but is this really the right way right now to do it? And that's going to be interesting to see this new workforce come into play in the near future. So, Isabelle, you've always been a very ambitious person for yourself, but most importantly for the businesses and the organizations you've worked for. So, let me ask you, what is your ambition for BDC, but also for the Canadian entrepreneurs?
Well, I want to make sure that BDC stays highly relevant for the SME ecosystem in Canada. We have been, but like all of the organizations in Canada and around the world, we have to make sure that we keep on and that we adapt to the new world, Isabelle. So it's quite important that we listen to entrepreneurs so that we learn how we can do better, but more. So we'll be there.
That's going to be your diplomacy.
That's it, my diplomacy. I'm not too sure that I need to be as diplomat as I needed to be in the last 4 years, but one thing is sure is that we will reach out to entrepreneurs and we will listen to what they need and what we need to do better and more. But for now, this week is to celebrate and applaud our entrepreneurs.
So here is somebody that's been particularly in demand. Because I know that for most of you, the state of the Canadian economy was on your mind. And so now let's add Pierre to the conversation. Pierre, hello.
Hi, good morning.
I hope I'm going to keep that smile on my face when we talk about the state of the Canadian economy.
Well, the news are pretty good.
All right.
The recovery is well on the way. And I don't know if you remember, but we lost at the beginning of the pandemic 3 million jobs in Canada. But the good news is in September, we're back to the pre-crisis level. So that's quite an achievement.
Amazing.
In 18 months. Having said that, we still have challenges. One of them is the recovery has been uneven. So in some sectors, it's more difficult. Accommodation and restaurants, for example, they are facing restrictions, so it's a bit more difficult. And in general, we have challenges because of the pandemic. The pandemic has created a lot of disruption. For example, for many entrepreneurs, it's difficult to get the products that they are looking for. So there's a supply chain disruption. It's difficult to recruit people right now. The pandemic has really made a difference in terms of the labor market. So it's a bit more difficult. And we see a lot of price fluctuation. So we're not out of the wood yet, but we are doing much better and we are going in the right direction.
And when we look at ourselves on the world stage, how is Canada doing?
Well, we're doing well. First of all, the big difference is our level of vaccination is the highest among the developed economies. So this is very important because we realize that as our vaccination is higher during the fourth wave that we have now, well, the impact on the economy is much lower. So this is a very significant factor, and we should be all proud of that because it's all Canadians so we have the highest level of vaccination among all the G7 countries.
Are there any other trends that you're seeing right now that can change the reality of our business owners?
Yes, actually, the pandemic has changed quite a bit our business environment. First, e-commerce. People are buying much more online than before, actually 3 times, and this is not slowing down. This trend is just going up.
So for those of us, because I remember that Quebec was really far behind in terms of the e-commerce. Now we don't have a choice to be out there. If you want your business to work, and in Canada, it has to go through e-commerce.
Definitely, and we saw many entrepreneurs who are investing to increase their presence online, and that's really the strategy you have to do, because if you're not online today, you're not visible for many consumers.
Yeah.
Another trend is remote work. A lot of people are working from home, and this trend is going to stay with us as well because Canadians like it. And also Canadian businesses, entrepreneurs realize that this is a good compromise. There's no lack of efficiency because part of your team is working from home. So we're convinced that this is really a new trend. The pandemic changed the game really in that matter. So we're going to work more from home in the future than we did in the past.
That's one thing that we have learned, and that is a positive learning from the pandemic, whereby I think that we've broke the stigma that working from home was not as good for organizations.
It wasn't a good productivity.
Exactly. This is a loaded word, productivity, but it was not seen very in a very positive way before the pandemic. And look at what we have succeeded to deliver with also reinventing many of the organizations that we led. So, and the pressure was and is still on many entrepreneurs to think outside of the box with their employees working from home. So I think that that's one thing that we have learned from the pandemic that is a positive key learning from my perspective.
Absolutely. Any other trends?
Well, the shortage of labor is another trend. We have an aging population in Canada, so this is not a new trend. Before the pandemic, we had this challenge, but the pandemic made things worse. We didn't have the level of immigration in 2020 and 2021 because of the restriction.
That's right.
Also, a lot of people decided to retire early because of the pandemic. So that's make things more complicated for businesses who are looking to hire people. So we will have to work differently with the labor force in the next few years. We'll have to be much more creative and invest in technology to make sure that we can continue to grow our business.
So technology that's going to replace people?
Well, I like to say replace task, because technology is more...
Oh, he's going into politics.
Oh, wow, he's good.
But it's true, because rarely a technology will replace an entire person. But you can replace a task and make it easier for your employee to work and reduce your need for workers in the future. So the investment in technology is going to be key, because as we are going in this era where a lot of people are retiring in Canada, well, we will need more technology to reduce our need for workers in the future.
Isabelle, Pierre and I, we go back a few years, and when I was at the Montreal Board of Trade, Pierre was in the same environment at CFIB, and at the time, 20 years ago, we were not allowed to say that technology could take over either a task or a portion of an employee's task, because first of all, unemployment was very high. So it was not permitted publicly to state this, but I think that with 4% unemployment, we can say, or 4 or 5 or 6% unemployment, I think that we can say that technology is one of the elements, but I do think that Pierre will bring a second very important element here.
Which is?
Well, also it's important to look differently at the labor force. You know, the time of where we like to hire people who have 10 years of experience and they were born in Canada, well, this time is over because we really have an aging population. So we have to look at a group of people in our society who have more difficulties to find a job. That's the case of young people with no experience. That's the case also with people who are not born in Canada. Their unemployment rate is much higher than Canadian born in Canada. And that's the case also for older people who like to stay on the labor force. So we will have to be much more creative as businesses to look at different ways of hiring people. And diversity is going to be the key for growing our business in the future.
So I may have a chance to become BDC's CEO one day.
Well, immigration is one of the key, and it has been for the last, 50 years for Canada. Our growth is based on immigration, and Tareq and Lauren could attest this when we will
talk to them,
invite them, and when they will join in a few minutes. They have their different stories, but they've picked Canada.
Yeah.
And we've picked them also, but quite important, we have a huge territory, but a small population, and we have a lot to share with the world, but we need talent. And I'm a strong believer in immigration being one of the answers, and I can tell you that having spent 4 years in Europe, we do receive great admiration from other countries, and they often ask, like, what do you do so right to bring so many and to welcome so many and attract so many immigrants? And I think that being transparent to the fact that we need and we want immigrants, but also how they are brought into the communities and how we do celebrate also diversity.
That brings me to the opportunities, because it's an opportunity for immigrants to come here. What are the opportunities, Pierre, right now for business owners? You know, it was a tough 18 months, but there are, financial opportunities out there.
Definitely. We are entering the post-pandemic, basically. The pandemic is not over yet. We still have some restrictions, but we're almost there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot, this is going to be a new economy. First, consumers, Canadians, have a lot of money in their pocket. The pandemic has been good for Canadians. Our wealth has been increasing because the value of our house has been increasing because our disposable income is better.
Because we don't get to travel.
We don't get to travel as well. So there's a number of transitions that we are having now that is a source for opportunities. The first one is technology. We have to invest more to sell online. We have to invest more for the shortage of labor. We have to invest more for many reasons. And this is really a source of opportunities for many companies. Also, we are in the transition for climate change. And the transition has already started, but this is going to accelerate. And this is going to bring a lot of opportunities for businesses to innovate, to create different products and different services that other businesses will need to make their transition. So the next 5 years are going to be a period of transition and a source of opportunity for that.
Pierre, with all your experience, would you say that we are now entering a phase in the economy that has that we'll see the biggest change since, let's say, the Second World War? Like, how far can we go back in time to see like the major shifts that we're going through right now?
Frankly, I would say that we never saw a change like this because
Really?
the technology gives the opportunities to really do things differently. I'll give you just an example. We might talk about export a little bit later. But 20 years ago, it was impossible to export unless you have a very big company because you needed a lot of resources.
Yeah.
But now with the online business, you can be small and export to the world. And so technology really allows businesses to do a lot more things. And this is really beneficial for smaller businesses. So it's important to invest in technology. It's important to keep up. Technology is changing very rapidly. And businesses who are the most successful are the ones who invest more in technology.
And I would say, Isabelle, that the kind of opportunity we have today will not come back soon. So it's not like, oh, this time around I'm not going to adapt and next time I will. Well, I think that maybe your grandkids might have to face something like we're doing and similar. But we need to make sure that we see the benefits of reinventing ourselves and to rebuild better and in a more inclusive way, because it will not come back, and thank God it will not come back every second year.
Okay, so how can business owners leverage their opportunities with organizations like BDC then, right now?
Exactly. Well, the pressure is on all organizations, including BDC. We have to see the world onward, forward, and we have to really understand, and thanks, we have talent like Pierre on board so that we can fine-tune our understanding of what happened and what might happen, and then we need to adapt, and we need to be as innovative as our clients, entrepreneurs. Yeah. And we need to adjust, we need to test things, we need to bring not only new products out there, but new way to deal and to speak and to help our entrepreneurs.
Well, I think this is all positive, and Pierre, thank you for this amazing outlook. I'm glad that we can keep our smiles, people. Things are going well, and so therefore I'm keeping Pierre here. But let me tell you that he'll be speaking about the economy and the indicators to watch for this Wednesday, October 20th. You won't want to miss it, and I'm glad that we got to get a first peak right now. So I think that right now it's also the perfect time to add two entrepreneurs that have proven that building an innovative and sustainable business can be very successful. And let me start with Lauren Rathmell, greenhouse director and founding member, built the world's first commercial rooftop greenhouse on an industrial building in Montreal right after finishing her studies. Now, Lufa Farms is one of the largest urban farms in the world, with 4 greenhouses in Quebec, totaling more than 300,000 square feet of growing space. And she's just starting. She's also a mother of 3 young kids. It's a miracle she has time for us. Hello, Lauren.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And our second entrepreneur is Tareq Hadhad, founder of Peace by Chocolate.
Our story is all about the importance of peace. Without peace, there's no life. Because without peace, no one can go to work, no one can go to school, no one can build businesses, you cannot raise kids, you cannot do anything without peace. My name is Tareq Hadhad and I'm originally from Damascus. My father started the chocolate business in Syria in 1986. The company was growing very fast. One morning, I heard in the news that there are going to be some explosions and bombs in the area that the factory was. We lost everything, basically. We lost the factory, we lost the house. In a blink of an eye, our whole lives in Syria was destroyed. So we decided to leave the country.
Hello, so Tareq, you're joining us from Nova Scotia. Nice to have you.
I am. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. What an honor.
Oh, and Lauren, I have to say you were supposed to be in studio, but all the mothers out here are going to understand what you're going through. You have a sick child, and so now you are at home today.
That's it. I really wish I could be there, but germs abound with 3 under 5.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, before we go into the stories of your businesses, I want to know how you navigated through the last 18, 20 months in terms of business owners. Lauren, let me start with you.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, where do I start? So it's been very good for us in a lot of ways. We've really solidified our business and are emerging stronger, forged through the fire of the pandemic, so to speak. But more precisely, what we saw this time last year was pretty much a doubling of our business overnight because of the demand for online, the demand for groceries, and the push for like local agriculture and self-sufficiency being a big theme. So what's really great about that is it validated what we do in a pretty incredible way. We knew we were onto something, but it definitely gave us that added reassurance and that added momentum to build something that was rock solid and can continue to grow in Montreal and beyond. So something we really see growing and providing local food to cities around the world.
I know, it's amazing how you were right on target for what people were looking for local food delivered to us. I mean, this was really, really good. Tareq, you had an interesting sentence when we spoke earlier in preparation for this. You said, oh, a pandemic is nothing like the war. So how did you navigate through these 18 months?
Well, Isabelle, people love chocolate. They like chocolate, you know, whether there is a pandemic or not. And we were really lucky that we have very loyal customer base. You are right. You know, there is nothing compared to war. In 2013, during the war that tore my immediate family apart, destroyed our lives, we were forced to leave our houses and we were forced to leave everything behind. In 2020, during the pandemic, we were asked to stay in our houses and we were asked to stay safe. You see the comparison? It's all about perspective. It's all about how do we take it. And I am a huge believer that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's a song, but it's also in my core values right now, in my core beliefs, that we are certainly emerging out better. And as a business, we had to shut down for a couple of months. We lost all of our staff overnight, certainly when the pandemic hit, because we couldn't just keep going, keep manufacturing. But then when we reopened, we had a huge retention from our staff. We had a huge business just that was coming to our footstep, actually, the e-commerce, as Pierre mentioned. But also we have built many other stronger networks. We opened our flagship store in Halifax on the waterfront in the downtown area. And people are asking me, how are you opening a retail store in the middle of the pandemic? And I'm like, people love chocolate and people want peace. And our brand, Peace by Chocolate, speaks highly to that.
Yeah, well, that was smart. I don't know about you, Isabelle and Pierre, but I know I think my weight in chocolate during this pandemic.
I love chocolate, and definitely during the pandemic, it's a good source of motivation.
And going for Tareq's chocolate, it's not only good in your mouth, but it's a feel-good moment and a feel-good experience, because there is no way that the story of Tareq and his family cannot resonate with all of us. It's been Tareq. I was so impressed when you accepted to travel to Paris. Well, that I'm not surprised. Like anyone would travel to Paris.
You would have invited me. I would have been there.
But listening and watching Tareq telling his story to our French friends about how, I guess, Canada picked Tareq and his family, but also somehow, somewhere, Tareq picked Canada, even if like landing in a cold country, a cold winter was not necessarily the perfect experience. When we listen to both Lauren and Tareq, it's about, I guess it's about having the right purpose.
That's beautiful.
They've picked a purpose, and both of you are delivering on your purpose.
Yeah.
You have to experience Lufa as a brand.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Lauren doesn't know that, but I've experienced the Lufa brand because when I moved back from Paris, where I learned that buying local is the way to go, especially for food, because in France, like eating local is almost the first and most important religion in France, eating local food. But when you experience the Lufa brand, and when you experience the famous Peace for Chocolate, Chocolate for Peace brand, it's amazing. There's a feel-good energy that we have to celebrate. But again, it's back to their purpose.
Yeah. And we have
I have to really add to Isabelle's point, because what I always say that Syria is my home by birth, but Canada is my home by choice. And
beautiful.
by choosing Canada to come here, to reestablish ourselves, when many other countries around the world were closing their doors, were telling us that we are so strangers that we cannot come and restart our lives in any other 100 countries that I applied to. Canada is a country that stands for respect, for humanity, for compassion, for empathy, for human rights, for freedom. This is the recipe for success, not only for businesses, but for us as a human being. So I cannot really wait. I got my citizenship only in 2020, 2 months before the pandemic. I cannot wait to travel more and collect more stamps on my passport.
On your Canadian passport. And I find that we have two very inspiring stories. And in a few minutes, I want Lauren, because, a lot of business owners were told in the last 18, 20 months to innovate, to think outside the box, to try and do things differently. When you came onto the market 10 years ago, you were outside of the box. And so in a few minutes, I want you to tell the story of how you pulled through and you got your business going at a time where it was seen as very innovative. First, I'm going to go with Tareq, because we've mentioned many times about the story about your family. So, there is this book called Peace by Chocolate and a movie that tells about your family story. But if you want Tareq to just give us like the big lines of how you got here, and most importantly, what this journey has taught you as an entrepreneur.
Well, my background is in medicine. I studied medicine in Syria, and immigration was certainly the last thing that we were thinking about. Before the war, our history goes back to 1986. My father graduated as a civil engineer, and then he went to my grandmother, told her he's no longer passionate about being a civil engineer. He went to a wedding of my cousin, then he saw everyone eating chocolate, was happy and smiling. And then he said, chocolate makes happiness. Chocolate spreads happiness, and that's what really he wanted to do. So he started a company in the home kitchen in Syria that grew up in a little two shops on the way, one on downtown Damascus, one on the way to the airport. Then in 2005, the company kept growing and growing. It became the second largest chocolate factory in the region. My father had around 500 employees in Syria. We were living such a happy life. But then when the war started in 2011, I remember very well the night in the middle of July 2012 when the war reached our neighborhood and our street, and we were having supper. And we started hearing bombings and explosions around our building. We rushed to the basement. We stayed there for 5 nights without electricity, without water, without medicines, without even fresh breath of air. And after 5 days of hell, we rushed out of the building, and many family members actually left the country then. But I lost many family members to the war. Many were killed, arrested, went missing. In 2013, we left to Lebanon. We became called refugees. And when we became called refugees, it was that war that inspired us to do more as human beings, because we were not dead in a war. And that's another message for when we came to Canada, is we did not come here to take jobs. We came here to create them. And we did not really leave everything behind by our choice. We were forced to. Immigrants don't come to Canada just because they wanted to take from anyone else. No one loses their skills and their talents to the war. This is our intellectual property. Everyone keeps that. And for us as a family, we were refugees. We tried that loss of identity, the loss of sense of belonging, the loss even of hope at the end of the tunnel. But Canada opened the doors for us, invited me and my family in 2015, which is really interesting because I'm here in Canada because of a cab driver who told me to apply to come here.
Wow.
I will never meet him again. I will never meet him again. But I arrived here in 2015 without my family. In one of the coldest nights, actually, in December 18th, I landed in Toronto. Then I flew here to Nova Scotia. My family followed me after 2 weeks. And then we were sitting as a family. You know, my family were really, really scared. They said, like, Canada is the coldest country in the world. It's Canada, like the country that escaped from the Ice Age. So when we arrived in Nova Scotia, we just said that we are going to restart our lives again because we are here to contribute and give back. And this is what immigrants do. We started the business in our home kitchen in Antigonish, the small town of 5,000 on the East Coast. Even without any money, we arrived here with nothing. Guess what? The community of Antigonish rallied behind us and gave us a free interest loan of $12,000 for a year that we had to pay back afterwards. We bought the first chocolate wheel. We started in the home kitchen. We started selling at farmers market. And then we were able to pay the loan back within 1 month. And then we expanded our business afterwards. The Prime Minister mentioned our story at the United Nations in 2016. It was really a story of giving back. That's exactly why we were inspired to call the company Peace by Chocolate, because without peace, no one can go to work. No one can build business. You cannot raise kids. You cannot do anything without peace. And chocolate is a product of happiness. So since 2016, we have tripled our size in the company, and we have hired over 55 employees from Antigonish, from here in Halifax, and also around the country.
That's amazing. That is such an inspiring story. Lauren, let me talk about your story, because you're actually from the United States, right? And you came here to study right after finishing university. So you're a young woman and you have this crazy idea that you can do a greenhouse on a rooftop on a commercial building. And so how crazy did people think you were, and how difficult was it to get your idea through?
Yeah, I first want to say just it's remarkable to think what's happening, these timescales, these overlapping timescales, because we built our first greenhouse in 2011. To think what you were going through and what emerged from that, Tareq, it's mind-blowing to think about that, because we were in Montreal here just starting our idea, a different kind of battle, certainly. And it was then that what were we trying to solve for? We were looking at growing food closer to where people live, growing it more sustainably, doing something no one had done before by farming on a rooftop at scale in a commercial way, to be able to feed as much of the city as we could feed slowly and steadily. And I guess when I graduated from McGill, and the first kind of problem we were out to solve was looking at produce, where it came from and how it was grown. And what we saw going into, random grocery stores is the thing that stands out most to me, and the memory that sits there is, you can see a tomato on a shelf and it looks really pretty and it might taste okay, but you might know what country it was grown in, but you certainly don't know who grew it, or more precisely where it was grown in that country or how it was grown. So there's no transparency, there's no directness, and that has all been lost over many years. So we're thinking of how do we build a food model that can reestablish that connection, and re-educate people on where their food comes from, how it's grown, and that it's done in a better way for them and for the planet. So in 2011, we built the world's first commercial rooftop greenhouse here in Montreal, and to do that, it was complicated. We actually did a very manual process, but it ended up finding us the magic needle in the haystack building that we needed to find. We did a Google Maps survey of the whole island of Montreal, looking for rooftops that could maybe theoretically support a greenhouse that we could grow food on. Out of that came a handful of options, and then it was contacting building owners, doing some structural assessment to see if our dream was realistic. Convincing building owners too that what we were trying to get them to understand what we were doing, that there are no tractors, no cows, no soil even. These greenhouses, it's all self-contained. Yeah. So once we got through that, we were able to create that first pilot site, that first proof of concept that really laid the groundwork for the rest. And Montreal has since been welcoming with open arms each new greenhouse that we built.
Oh, absolutely. And do you have an advice for those who are listening right now and who have sort of very innovative ideas of how to be able to get financing and get your idea through?
On my end, I mean, it's really tough when you don't have proof of concept. If you're doing something really out of the box, I think that's where the challenge we were up against initially. So we actually did finance really independently early on. It was I love money, friends, family, supporters as we could get them. Once we were able to build that first site and show what we were trying to do and show the whole business with the partner farms that we work with the basket subscriptions, the online farmers market, put the whole puzzle together and show that it could be done and that it could be profitable ultimately. It's really led to more and more opportunities, both on, from a financing side of thing and partnerships and other support along the way.
So Isabelle, I'm pretty glad that you asked the question first to Lauren, because we see in numbers and in data that there's not as many women entrepreneurs that will come and knock on doors to find financing compared to men. We hear in Lauren's voice, and we know that she has this confident mindset, and she should be a model for not only women entrepreneurs, for all entrepreneurs, but specifically for women entrepreneurs, because we're pretty good women at replicating what we see.
You're right.
And Lauren is not the only model, but she's a role model, and she needs to accept the fact that she's a role model for other women entrepreneurs that are wondering, like, is it really for me? Is it like, how will financial institutions will welcome me or not? So I just want to call it out, that not true that it was easy for Lauren nor for Tareq, but it is possible, and institutions like BDC, we need to be there for all entrepreneurs, but especially for underserved clientele like women entrepreneurs.
Women, we have indigenous people and
Black.
And people that are racialized. Tareq, you sort of talked a bit about it, and I want you to go a deeper dive into it about inclusivity and about the importance of hiring refugees, because with Pierre we talked about the workforce, and we're going to need some more labor, and that's going to come from outside. I heard another business owner, a Syrian business owner, say when you give a job to a refugee, he'll never forget it and will be even more loyal to you. How do you feel about all of that? How has it served you and others that you know?
Absolutely, 100% I agree. And at the end of the day, when you are successful, it's your responsibility to lift others to success. So when we came to Canada, we had a mission, and our mission was, we are not here to build wealth as a family. We are not here to really just build an empire. We are here to help others who need help. We are here to lend a hand. This is I call it the circuit of kindness.
Yeah.
Whenever I receive a hand, then it's my responsibility to give my other hand to another person who needs it. And now we are a well-established brand and well-established company. So in 2019, we made a commitment that by the end of next year, and hopefully the years that would follow, we will hire 50 refugees in our company. We will support 10 businesses started by refugees in mentorship, and we will support 4 businesses started by refugees in distribution and marketing. So, this is what we are here for. The values, we cannot say we are building a peaceful world without inclusivity. We cannot say that we are a more peaceful brand if we do the same exact thing that other companies do, because big companies, they don't care about people. And this is really what I realized. When we started our small business, it's not only the size of the company that matters, certainly. What matters is their values. And our values are about peace, enthusiasm, advocacy. And by supporting others, I think we all win. It's a win-win deal. There is nothing absolutely wrong by extending our hands in businesses in the private sector to refugees who don't have work experience. And Pierre mentioned that. You don't have now to look for those who have 10 years of experience into a field. Just try them out. Try them out, and they will absolutely be the right candidate for you. And to be honest with you, immigrants in our workforce, they are part of our success. We are not successful without any of our employees, and I feel that we have a moral responsibility to keep supporting other refugees. And Canada keeps opening the doors for many people when many other countries are closing them. So we are so proud of our mandate in the company, not even actually to call it a business. We are a cause more than a business. And if more business owners think in the mindset of social enterprise, caring about their community, caring about their people, and caring about our planet, talking about climate change as well, and then making good products, making profit at the end to make sure that they are sustainable. And that's what leads me to the last point in this, which is our Peace on Air Society. We have the business Peace by Chocolate that is growing, hopefully to become one of the top 5 chocolate companies in Canada within the next few years. But also we have a society called the Peace on Air Society, where we donate profit of each of our products dedicated to causes like mental health, refugee help in Ottawa, and Indigenous communities across Canada.
Yeah, and that is amazing. And I know, Lauren, also you guys at Lufa Farms have programs to help underprivileged families in your communities. Pierre, there's something really interesting because both of them have a mission, a purpose that is the human and the planet first, and wanting to help others. Is it me, or I find that the business world is changing a lot in that sense, more and more?
Definitely, there's more and more entrepreneurs who are looking to have a social mission.
Yeah.
And we see when we look when we did the research on climate change, we asked people who are taking action to reduce their footprint on the environment, why they do this. Do they receive pressure from consumer?
Yeah.
First reason is because they believe in it.
Wow.
So entrepreneurs, not only they care about the environment, for example, they care about social issues, but they have the power of doing it. Because when you are your own entrepreneur, you're the boss, basically.
Yeah.
So they have the power to do a lot of things inside their business and have an impact around their business.
And can you tell us about what's going to happen to both of their markets in terms of the economy? Because they seem like they're really in a good space.
Yes, definitely. And they use e-commerce to grow their business, which is really, to me, is the future for Canadian businesses. It is a lot of opportunities online, and they are both, growing their business in that sense. Demand for consumer products is increasing in Canada. Canadians has increased their wealth. They have a lot of money in their pocket. So this is a very good sign for both businesses. And also people are much more cautious about their health, and they want to buy local products. So in that sense, Lauren, there's no doubt that what they produce is really healthy. Tareq, chocolate is good. It's good for your health.
Calories,
It's good for your mental health.
It's good for your mental health. So in both cases, we have a growing demand in Canada, so they should continue to do very well.
And I would add, Isabelle, that the climate factor is also a key factor for attraction and retention of talent. I think that the pressure will be growing on entrepreneurs and leaders of all kinds of organizations to show that each organization is delivering on this topic. I think that if there's one thing coming out of the pandemic is that climate is not only a conversation, it needs to be a real action.
Yeah.
I totally agree. The new generation of workers, of employees, younger people, what they look for a job, they also look for a purpose, which was not the case before.
No.
So this is so important for businesses to have a purpose, a cause. It will be easier for them to attract younger workers.
And as you want to grow your business, the engagement with your clients is extremely important. Lauren, talk to us about Lufaverse. Lufaverse, am I saying it properly? I can never say it properly.
Yeah.
But I love that they have like a name. How have you been able to create such engagement?
Yeah, I mean, we would not be here without the Lufavores. So the herbivore, omnivore, Lufavore.
Thank you.
That's the theme. Yeah, so it's been tricky this past year, especially. But since the beginning, it's been this movement, I would say, in Montreal towards local, towards direct sourcing, towards storytelling around where food's coming from and who's producing and making it. And we've really fostered that. I think it's tricky when you sell food online. I mean, it's an online farmers market. People like to see what they're buying, touch it, talk to people. And so we've really tried to recreate that directness and that transparency in our online farmers market. We tell the story of every producer that we work with. We invite people in to visit our farms, which are right here in the city, very accessible, so that kids can do field trips, that sort of thing. I think that's all built this really strong foundation and that effect of community.
What about you, Tareq? How have you created your engagement?
Well, we have seen certainly that more people are online. They are virtually available. They are on the internet. They're looking for ideas. They're looking for good products. They're going to support good causes anyway. As I mentioned, we started in selling in the farmers markets in 2016, and that's actually where we started getting the feedback for the first time. People were just right away telling, what type of chocolate do they like? What type of fillings do they like? What kind of packaging colors do they like? We were just getting this amazing feedback, documenting it all, and then building upon it when we opened our big factory in 2017, and when we launched our first chocolate bar, which, by the way, was called Wanta Udi, which means peace in Mi'kmaq. We said there is nothing nobler than spreading our message in the mother tongue of the land that we are on and the land that we call home, which is Mi'kmaqi. Afterwards, we launched many campaigns actually that speak highly to people. Chocolate is not only a product, it's a cause. It's a cause to spread happiness. It's a cause to connect to people's hearts, not only really to something that they're going to eat. It's something that they will celebrate, to build joy, build bonds and connections with their families. So we have built a campaign around each season. As you know, chocolate is a very seasonal product. For example, for Easter, we started sending violet seeds with each package to consumers. They were planting the violets after they eat the chocolate with their family, and they were seeing the flowers just bloom after 2 months. For Valentine's, we have filmed senior couples who stayed together for over 25 years. We traveled across Canada and we said that we're printing unsolicited love advice inside each packet and sending it to young couples to tell them how did these senior couples stay together. So we have really strong marketing campaigns that we work on to using our medium, which is chocolate, in a way that no one ever really thought of using, and in a way that creates positive impact and positive engagement with our consumers, which we call our family. Actually, they're not our clients.
So you guys seems like you guys are thinking really big. I would like to know, Lauren, for example, I know that you said that you can feed the entire city of Montreal by having 19 rooftop commercial malls, average malls. So what is your biggest ambition for Lufa Farms?
That's a great question, because it is, I mean, we're taking a very long view approach to what we do. And I think that's the important thing the way to look at what we've done today in Montreal and how that will serve a greater impact, a greater mission. We see this as a multi-generational endeavor. What we've done here in Montreal has created the foundation for it, for the business model, the operations, the team, and the know-how, how to grow on rooftops sustainably, how to create a network of partner farms and food makers and a community of lufavores. And we're going to continue to grow in Montreal, but this is something we really want to replicate. We want it to feed 10% of the world if we can. Right now we feed 2% of Montreal. That's a good start. So it's really about starting to go beyond Montreal. That's kind of the next frontier. And be a part of the solution. It's not the only answer, but it is a key component of feeding cities, feeding a growing urbanizing population.
Well, Isabelle, a comment on export. Like some would say, like, don't ask a question to Lauren around export because she is, like, her purpose is to feed with local food. But Lauren, you can very well export your model, just what you have mentioned. And Tareq, I would also be curious to hear you on export, because we talked about this when you were here in Paris. Canada is a huge country, but with only 40 million of population.
There's so much chocolate we can eat.
There's so much chocolate that we can eat, but also there's peace required and badly needed around the world. So we just heard Lauren around exporting our model. Are you still planning on gaining new markets or adding new markets to your business, Tareq?
Absolutely. Actually, just before we were talking today, I was talking to one of our representatives in the Middle East. We are trying to get into the markets there, representation in Dubai, starting there to export to the region. We are in discussions with many states in the US as well. Thanks to all the trade commissioners. There is amazing support for many businesses who want to export. Reach out to the trade commissioner, reach out even to the organization in your province, in your region. In my province of Nova Scotia Business Inc., and SBI have done a phenomenal job of connecting us to trade commissioners and connecting us to buyers, and attending virtual trade shows also is a great asset. We were supposed actually to ship our first chocolate pallet to the US earlier last year, but we had a lot of the challenges, as many of you know. But it's never too late. It's never too late to reach your goal. Now we are actually adjusting our plans, and we are getting ready for, as the release of our movie Peace by Chocolates has just started in the US and around the world. We expect millions of people who are going to watch it certainly will want to eat our products. So we are working very closely with trade commissioners and Canadian consulates and embassies around the world, which is, thankfully, they do a phenomenal job in just representing us and easing actually all the meetings with all the buyers. So hopefully I will be on my first international trip very soon.
I guess watching your movie will not be with popcorn, but with chocolate.
Or chocolate popcorn. I love that. Pierre, I'd like you to end this with the export and what's in it for our business owners right there. Are there big opportunities for us in terms of Canadian businesses?
There's a lot of opportunities because the world is growing, and also the Canadian brand it's an excellent brand, especially on the food side. We have the reputation to have very high quality, to have very safe products. So it's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to sell. Our export of food and agro-food has been really doing well over the last 10 years, and will just continue as the world is growing, and we still have we have such a great reputation.
Thank you so much. Lauren and Tareq, you guys were amazing, very inspiring. Thank you, and we wish you continued success. And Lauren, take care of your child.
Thank you. We'll be better soon.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today's event. For all of you watching, remember that you can see more of Pierre and get a full economic forecast later this week. He will be on Wednesday, October 20th at 11:30 a.m. Thank you, Pierre. You were so interesting. So if you want to go subscribe, go to bdc.ca. And Isabelle, any final thoughts?
Well, I would say I would leave all of us on one word, inspired. Let's be inspired by Tareq. Let's be inspired by Lauren. Their successes, their challenges, and let's keep in mind that we have to learn from the last 18 months the positive outcomes, and not only focus on what was difficult and what was tough. Like, I don't want to avoid that conversation, but to look onward and forward, I do believe that it's very important to take some very positive key learnings and to build and rebuild better and in a more inclusive way.
Thank you, Isabelle. Continued success as well to you. You're starting this new chapter. And I don't know about you, but all this talk about food has made me very hungry. So I'm glad that we're closing this up. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. We want to especially thank you, the entrepreneurs, for tuning in. And please feel free to visit bdc.ca/Small Business Week for more information on the rest of our upcoming events and webinars. Bye.